Say what you want about Brandon Moreno, but he's such a fun fighter, and it really sucks that he is blocked in out of a title shot against Alexandre Pantoja. If you missed it last night, UFC Mexico, Brandon Royval defeated Steve Erceg via unanimous decision. Really good performance from Moreno, the former two-time champion. And now, where does he go from here? That's the real question, because it's like, man, you look at Brandon Moreno and like he's beat almost everybody. What, you can really possibly run the Brandon Royval trilogy back. I think that's the one to make. But at the same time, you look at what Moreno's done, you know, the quadrilogy with Davison Figueiredo, you know, these two fights he's lost to Pantoja. It's like there's no way he gets back to the title unless Alexandre Pantoja decides to go away. There's some, we talked about this on the live stream on Friday. There's some fun fights for him at bantamweight, you know, like Sean O'Malley and Petr Yan are two fights that I'm actually really fond of. I think that'd be very fun fights, and I don't think they're way too big for him. Sandhagen might be a little too big, but there's some fun fights for Moreno. But yeah, he beat Steve Erceg. Didn't look terrible, man. He really didn't. We could tell at 31 as a flyweight, like Brandon Moreno's losing a step. He's getting slower. He's missing more shots, but man, he didn't look absolutely dreadful in that fight. I wouldn't say that fight was one that was like, oh wow, yeah, Brandon Moreno's just about done. Like, no, I don't think we can say that about him at all. But I do think what we saw from Brandon Moreno was a guy who, you know, learned to deal with his mistakes that he suffered with Brandon Royval, a long fighter. Now, granted, Steve Erceg doesn't bring the volume quite like Brandon Royval does. And I think that's the fight that they're going to make next. I think we're going to see Pantoja versus Kara-France, and then Moreno versus Royval. Both of those guys have lost multiple times to Pantoja. So it's like, where do they go from here? You know, like there's really not a place for him. You know, a lot of really long and looping strikes for Brandon Moreno. And that's not really what I wanted to see from him. You know, he shows off this great head movement. He showed it off here, too. Just really good head movement, this and that. And I thought, you know, he was going to dip to the inside and Erceg was going to find that rear kick to the dome and put him down. But that never ended up happening. Moreno, you know, got a good head on his shoulders. So I really wanted to see, instead of the long looping lefts and like the lead hooks that he throws and looping right hands to get in, I really wanted to see Moreno kind of weave himself into the pocket with him, with Steve Erceg, and really start to work his way up. So go body, head. We didn't get to see that against it, and that's, you know, all fair. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at this fight Brandon Moreno put on and gifted us, because it was a gift, you know, he fought at altitude, so you got to give him some credit there. You know, he's never gotten a win in Mexico, sadly, because that's where he's from. I think, you know, that was, I don't want to say it was his best performance, but it was a good Brandon Moreno performance against a guy, you know, he got a lot of flack against Amir Albazi as someone that he should have beaten. This was a guy that could really give him some problems with the low kicks, the length and all that, and he managed to nullify that. He also managed to grapple a hair. So, you know, I think this win was probably a good win for Moreno, not a great one. We're not talking about, you know, like the Davison Figueiredo wins or anything like that. I think, you know, going forward, Moreno really kind of is in no man's land. Let's see. Let's go over to the web real quick. Let's take a look at the rankings up here. So in flyweight, you got Royval, which is a fight that they can conceivably make. He's already beat Albazi. Kara-France is likely going to get the next title shot. Should move him up above Albazi, honestly. You could always do Tatsuro Taira and Brandon Moreno. That'd be very fun. Top 5 matchup. I don't know why Albazi's above him too. You know, they gave him that over. I think it was Alex Perez that they gave him that win over. Manel Kape is conceivable. You know, if you do go ahead and book Kara-France versus Pantoja, because Pantoja didn't have an official win over him, I think that's a good move. Alex Perez is out. Almabayev just lost. Ulanbekov, maybe. You know, there's Joshua Van's on the way up. There's some options there for Brandon Moreno. I don't know, you know, where he goes. I vote with the bantamweight route. I think that's the one that really excites me most, especially that Petr Yan fight. Like the boxing, that would be fantastic. Moreno's not like a massive 125er, But Petr Yan's also not a huge 135er. Like Petr Yan couldn't go to 145 and fight. Although, no, we're not going to talk about that. No, we're not talking about Petr Yan becoming a 145er because he beat Aljamain Sterling, or should have beat Aljamain Sterling. Yeah. No. Moving on. No steps back for Steve Erceg. This game is very unforgiving, fellas. Like, it is a incredibly unforgiving sport. Steve Erceg, he had the knockout of Matt Schnell, that beautiful combination, put him out cold, and that catapulted him at like number 10 to a title fight. And you think to yourself, like, man, that's great. He's got his option. He's got his day in the sun. Gets to fight Alexandre Pantoja and maybe win a title, No, that's not what happened. Instead, he shot an ill-fated takedown in round 5 against Pantoja and lost that fight. Comes back, rebounds against Kara-France. He's riding high, like a really good moral victory, which I don't know what that means in this sport, but a really good moral victory for him. So, okay, I'll take on Kara-France, get myself back in the picture, get a rematch. Nope. Kara-France steps through, big knockout. And then they're just like, the UFC matchmakers are just like, feed him to the wolves. Let's give him the 2-time champion, Brandon Moreno, in Mexico at Elevation. What? No steps back in this game. Once you say, hey, I am elite, you're fighting the elite. There's no fights like Kambosos just had where he fights a nobody. We don't have that in MMA, really. You get beaten down over and over again. And I think this fight wasn't as much of a disaster for Steve Erceg as that Kara-France fight was. I had it a clean sweep. You could argue we give him 1 or 2 rounds, but I thought the clear winner was easily Brandon Moreno. Easily. But what it shows us is, Steve Erceg is not having time to get better in the areas he needs to get better, like leading the attack and drawing out attacks from people and countering off of those. Even though he did well with it tonight, right? He did well with it against Brandon Moreno, but at the same time, he really did struggle with Moreno's speed and creativity of strikes, because Moreno didn't come at him the same way twice. And I don't know where you go from here with him. I really don't. You look at the rankings. Let's go over here. Poor Steve Erceg, right? 12 and 14 and 4. 3 straight losses on the trot. He's beat Dvorak in his debut, Costa and Matt Schnell. Now he's 3 straight losses. I don't think you cut him off of this. Normally 3 cuts and you're out, right? But you go to the flyweight rankings on Tapology. So you see, Pantoja's at the top. I don't know why you got Royval under Brandon Moreno. Royval has a win most recently over him. Kara-France, Starboy, Tatsuro Taira. Amir Albazi, no thanks. They might feed him to Joshua Van if Van beats Bruno Silva. Is Silva ranked? Yeah, that's a good fight. Bruno Silva and Joshua Van. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good fight. Bruno Silva and Joshua Van. I like that. Ulanbekov, maybe, who does he fight that's not, horrible matchup? Kai Sakura? No. Kai would probably kill him, too. I don't think there's an easy fight for him going forward. There's no steps back in this game. And we very well could be seeing the destruction of Steve Erceg. Thanks to Alexandre Pantoja, Manel Kape, and Brandon Moreno, right? Speaking of destructions, the demise of Drew Dober. Once near impossible to put down. Think about that, guys. Think about how impossible Drew Dober used to be to put down. You used to be able to he's taking a beating. He gets knocked down maybe, but he doesn't get knocked out. He'll lose some fights, and he'll bring out a good fight. But like, he took on Manuel Torres and Jean Silva, 2 back-to-back knockouts, round 1 and round 3. Lost to Moicano. You know, Frivola really beat him up bad, like first round knockout. Makachev, you know, we don't count that, but like, you go and watch his fights with like Terrence McKinney, Rafael Alves, Bobby Green, even Ricky Glenn, even, you know. And you think like, man, this guy used to be Mr. Iron Man, indestructible. Nobody could touch him. And now we have Manuel Torres just icing him with a 1-2 straight down the pipe. And then let's talk about like the hammer fist of Manuel Torres too, because those were brutal, right? Those were absolutely just vicious. Wham, 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 wham. Like he was playing whack-a-mole, but I think that was Keith Shillian said that online. He played whack-a-mole, and it was like, you know, just pounding him, the most vicious things. It was crazy too, because he got up. The ref calls out the fight, and he gets up and he starts trying to fight Torres, and the ref has to get back in his face and say, no, it's over. And Dober's like, what? What happened? Like, you could tell he was out. Like, great call by the ref to call him out. He was dove in on a heel and just kind of eating shots. He didn't know what happened. That's how hard those hammer fists were. Manuel Torres is a beast, though. I do like him. You know, he has that loss to Ignacio Bahamondes, but like, aside from that, like, he's a really good fighter. Let's go take a peek at what he's done, because he's real fun, man. He's super fun. Let's see. Camacho, he beat Nicholas Mota, Chris Duncan. That's a good win, Chris Duncan. The Bahamondes loss, and then now Drew Dober win. I don't know if we can count the Drew Dober win, though, because how washed I think Dober is. His chin just seems like it's absolutely gone. Yeah. Edgar Cheriez and CJ Vergara. Cheriez managed to get a rear naked choke in round 1 after hurting CJ. You know, I felt like that fight was good. I wouldn't say it was barn burning. It was a cool submission though. But Raul Rosas, is he the future of the division? He just beat my boy Vince Morales, and y'all know around here I love me Vince Morales, and I really hope they don't cut him, because you know, that 16-10 record, don't let it fool you. But then again, I always talk about, like, you're the product of your results, and he's 3-8 in the UFC. Like, since coming back, he hasn't won. He fought Lapalus, Elijah Smith, and Raul Rosas Jr. Like, they're feeding him to the wolves. But like, look who, like, he's beat, you know, in Rising he's fought. He beat Yuki Motoya, Hunter Azure with a Peruvian necktie. Like, he's a good fighter, man. He just can't seem to put it together. And it really sucks, because I love Vince Morales. But, man, we got to talk about Raul Rosas, because he's getting better. I don't think his stand-up is quite there, no. But, like, I do think Raul Rosas has a shot to being a really highly ranked fighter. Top 5. Nah, maybe top 3. I don't know if he ever beats, you know, the top of that 135 division, because 135 is so deep, man. It's such a hard division. But I don't think, you know, his wrestling is killer. We know his wrestling's killer. He's still got a long ways to go, you know, but he's still a really good fighter. I'm interested to see, you know, him maybe in a top 15 opportunity. That would be kind of fun. What else was on this card, fellas? Let's go ahead and get through this real quick. Well, what else? David Martinez and beat Simon Oliveira. Borjas looked really good. He beat Ronaldo Rodriguez. Godeye defeated Jose Medina. Okay. Knee. That was actually a nice knee. Costa defeated Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez can't beat an undefeated fighter, or a fighter has been defeated to save his life. He's got 3 losses. You know, he's beat undefeated Bashi, Bulgarian, and Simon, and Raul Rosas. But he loses Jonathan Pierce, Julian Arosa, Mercazo Costa, and we're going too far back to LFA in 2017. So, good win for Costa, man. I like him. He's a really fun fighter. Lupe Godinez threw this chick on the back of her head, which was sick. Rafa Garcia had a really close fight with Vince Patel. I don't know if I call it a robbery or not. Emmers beat the brakes off of Gabriel Miranda. Goodness. And then Austin Hubbard, you know, tried to wrestled too much against Markel Medeiros and didn't go his way. I mean, it just really didn't. Overall, you know, the fights, they weren't too bad. They weren't terrible. You know, they were out and about. And this card, I think, was fairly comparable to what we had last week. Or actually, no, that was the week before, the Apex. And it's like, it's just the atmosphere. We got to get out of the Apex, man. We got to. Look, if you liked my show, this playlist right here, if you subscribe to it or follow it, you'll get the notifications and you'll be like, oh, there's a new one out. Oh, there's a new one. Every week we do a new show. Come back, hang out, subscribe to this playlist. Let's go ahead and start talking fights, guys.